Hello. Get all my stuff together here. Let's see. Good morning. Well, that's me. My name is Tim Olson. I am really excited to be here. Was very surprised when Pastor Meg said, "Oh, you've preached before. Would you like to come to it again?" And I said, "Well, I've only done it once, so sure, why not? Let's go." Yeah, thanks. And I've known Meg for a number of years, and Scott, and she was back when she was just a prayer leader at a church here in town we both used to go to, and just under her leadership, I thought, wow, she's amazing. I would go anywhere. And then she said, "We're going that way." I said, "Yep, I'm with you." She's just that kind of leader. So just an amazing privilege to have her ask me to do this today. And so I'm really excited to be here with you guys, serving you as well, not just her, but serving you guys and serving the Lord. So I want to give some encouragement, a little bit of inspiration, I hope, to pursue God in a way that brings you closer to Him. But I don't really have a title for it. But if I was going to put a title on it, I would call it probably The Power of Intimacy. So if you're taking notes, you can write that down. There's just this idea that God is far away and unreachable and very difficult to relate to as people, because He's so high above. You know, He even says, "My ways are not your ways. They're much higher than yours." And so it's hard to, I think, relate and to say, well, okay, well, He's so far above, what is even the purpose of trying? But the fact is, He's made us like Him. He's made us in His image. It's part of His character and nature, in fact, to draw us close to Him. He wants us close to Him. It's not just, here's these little people that can do stuff for me, and I hope they do a good job, but if they don't, off they go. It's not like that at all. And we see Him everywhere. He's left His fingerprints on all of creation, from the tiniest particles to galaxies. Everywhere you look, you see His hand. And so it can be kind of hard to, the person that made that wants to talk to me. But He does. In fact, we're the only creatures in creation that are made specifically to have a relationship with Him. That when He said, "Let's make man in our own image," it was for the purpose of relationship. It wasn't just, He made the stars, He made the heavens, He made the animals and all the things. And He said, it's just not complete yet. And it's not like He didn't know it was coming. This idea has been there forever. He's eternal. But again, it's Him trying to relate to us. So He has this very deep desire to make Himself known to us in a way that we don't just know who He is or about Him, but we actually become more like Him. The more that we draw near to Him. And in fact, He says, "Draw near to me and I will draw near to you." So when you make that move towards Him, He's waiting for you to start taking a step. Sometimes that's all it is. You just start to take that step. You acknowledge, through salvation, okay, you're God, I acknowledge that, and He's right there. And He wants to grow us, and it takes time because it is a friendship. It doesn't just happen overnight. So what's the purpose of that? Well, it's not just to make us better people, like I was saying. It's not just to help us be good, and that then there's enough good to offset the bad. His goodness is so far above any kind of bad or evil that might be in the world. It's not a yin and yang. I'm trying to balance this out. It's not like the dark side and the light side. Right? It's not anywhere close to that. It's light, and the darkness can't even handle it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can't overcome it.
Yes.
So that's who we're serving. So again, that's really big. So how do you fit into the very big picture of what he's trying to do? I would say that it's really not about here. It's not about this world, not in the ultimate sense. Hebrews 13:14 says, we don't have a permanent home here. We are looking to the home that is to come. So we're part of something that touches here but isn't here.
Yeah.
When we consider his invitation to intimacy by way of Christ's sacrifice and victory, we begin to see the picture of a God who desires us to know him. He wants us closer to him than we are right now, and closer even than what we can imagine. And I love Galatians 2:20. My old self has been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me.
Yeah.
So we're not even living, like I said, we're not living for let's do good stuff and be better and be good people and just, that's a good person, that's a bad person. We're living for him.
Yes.
And that comes from knowing him. So what is that? What is he like? What is he trying to show us? Who is he? So we're not just alive and aware that he's God, but we can be partners with him. There are mysteries, there are secrets, there's knowledge and truth, and this chance to know who it is that saved you out of darkness into light. It's a journey. So what we can know that he reveals to us, what he reveals to us comes from a place of friendship and a place of adoration. He's holy. He calls us to be holy. He in fact says, be holy as I am holy, and that's pretty clear. And holy just means, it doesn't just mean, but in one sense it means set apart from everything else. And you think about what Christianity is supposed to be. We're set apart in this world for that world, but we're meant to affect here.
Yeah.
So it's not just a passive, well, I'm part of that and everyone else is excluded and you can't be in my cool guys club unless you follow these rules and these steps and do all these things, because it really isn't about that.
Yeah.
So it's not about bragging how like God you are or anything like that. It's actually to be close to him. And just some attributes that I think, to me, really underscore and help me to remember how much bigger he is than any situation, how much bigger he is than any fear or doubt or anything that can come, how much more light he is than the darkness. I'm just going to go through some of that. So he's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. No one compares to him.
Yeah.
There was nothing before him. There is nothing after him. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is in all things, and by his hand everything we see exists. From his word alone, he created the entire universe, both seen and unseen. Just by words, just by speaking. That's the power that he wants us to participate in. He wants to give us that.
Yeah.
He is a lion, and I love that picture of him as just this powerful lion. One of my favorite books is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, of course. In there we have Aslan, who is a lion and is an allegory of Christ. One of the best lines in there. Sorry, I just get a little emotional sometimes. It's so powerful to me. But when the character Susan first finds out that he's a lion, and she says, everybody's been talking about Aslan. I thought he was a person. She said, well, that makes me a little nervous. Is he safe? And the character she's talking to says, of course he isn't safe, but he's good. he's the king. So I think in our lives we look a lot for safety and surety and security, and that the things that we're doing, building for whatever future we have in our mind is going to secure that future. If we can work to get to the place in our mind that we think we ought to be, then it won't be for nothing. But okay. We work that just in the hope that it won't be for nothing, but by saying that he isn't safe, but he's good, we're saying that regardless of what we're working for, if we're following him wherever he takes us, there's going to be good things there. He's doing good things.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Another story of just someone in the faith is the story of Eric Liddell. In the early part of the 20th century, he was an Olympic runner. He was the subject of the movie Chariots of Fire. And he worked and he put his heart and his passion into running and competing in the Olympic Games, and he was incredibly fast. And he was a competitor for the gold medal in almost every event. But he was also, first and foremost, someone who loved the Lord so much that the race he was favored in was being run on a Sunday, and he said, I don't run on Sundays. That's the Lord's day. So in his heart and his conviction and his closeness to the Lord, he honored that more than an accolade, a gold medal. At the time, it meant, I think, a lot more than it does now. The Olympics was a huge international event, and it connected the world. And he said of it, when I run, I feel his pleasure. Somebody said, why do you do it? He said, that's why. When I run, I feel his pleasure. And he had a very promising career that he worked on to get to that point. But in the end, after he ran and after the Olympics, and he did win gold in other events that were not on Sunday. After all of that, the Lord called him to be a missionary in China. So he went. And before long, he got sick and he died in China as a missionary. And he really didn't get time to do the missionary thing while he was there. He wasn't there very long before he was gone and off to heaven. But that wasn't very safe for him. That wasn't something that brought him any kind of security at all. Nobody was coming to clap and cheer, when he died, like they did when he was running. So that to me is what that means. Is he safe? No, of course it's not safe, but it's good. So one other attribute that I want to touch on is that he's a righteous judge. He sees everything, he knows everything, and because of this, nothing is hidden from him. Because of this, he can discern what is right, what is just, and what is true. He is above all. His judgments are true and just. And even with all that, even with the image of him that all these descriptions create in our mind, and even with the truth of it we can feel in our spirits, even though our minds are inadequate to understand, his heart is turned toward you.
Yeah.
He wants to reveal his nature to us, to unlock those mysteries, and tell us those secrets that only he knows. They are for us to know. Colossians 2:3 says, in him lie hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. All of it, it's in him. He's not hoarding it. He wants to give it out, but you can't just meet someone and then expect to know everything about them.
Yeah.
You can't do that with friends, with a spouse, not even with family members that you live with all your life. You could ignore a family member and not know anything about them. You're still related. You're still you're still family. But I say all that to say, this is what we're here for. It's a treasure hunt, and the treasure is God. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a little scary, but it's also a lot of fun. I have had a ton of fun. When I went to International House of Prayer, I had a 1984 Toyota pickup in the year 2000, so she was running on dreams and hopes, and had a major issue with the radiator. I had just water in my truck, and when it would start to go chuk chuk chuk, I would get out and go, it's time for some more water. And about halfway there, that was it. She was all done. No more moving, no more going. Middle of nowhere. And I'm looking around going, okay, well, you called me to this, and I don't even have a cell phone. I don't know where I am. Somewhere in Oklahoma, there's nothing anywhere. And so I'm just looking around, looking under the hood. I go over to the side of my car, and I have my head down in my car and just praying. And there comes a knock on the driver's side window. And I look up, and there's a man, and he says, hey, I saw you stuck on the side of the road. And for a second, I thought he was an angel, and maybe the angel brought him. But that guy happened to live in the next town over, happened to know a mechanic, and happened to allow me to get it towed on my insurance. So I didn't have to pay $8 million to have it towed. My sad little $500 truck. And I stayed with him for 2 days. A guy I didn't even know. Never met him before. I wasn't safe. But God was good.
Yeah.
So he let me meet this man, and I eventually, a couple days later, the person that was hosting me, we stayed with just different families because we had no money. We're interns. She came down and picked me up with her grandkids. She came down, picked me up, and took me on to Kansas City, and I missed, basically missed a mixer, so it wasn't a big deal. But just that part of it, that adventure of it.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are, broken down. What's next?
Yes.
What do we start looking for the next thing? And that is what we can expect when we have that intimate relationship with Him.
Yes.
When we have listened and responded. That whole trip was a response. I had been to a conference at that place the year before, and they said, if you like what's going on here, we got this other thing kicking off. We did it, today, and we're going to have an internship next year. So come to a meeting. I went to the meeting, and I really didn't even listen because I knew as soon as I walked in that room, I was like, okay, well, we're doing this next year. It's not even hard, but just listening to that, pushing aside all the things that would say we can't really afford to do that. You are a poor 20-year-old, who even are you? Well, I don't know, but we're going to get there, and we're going to live on $100 a month and get real skinny, but we're going to do the thing that God's called us to, because I knew He'd called me to it.
Yeah.
I'm still called to it. But that's for everyone. That's not just for me. So, yep, that's off script. I got to find where I am on here. I think I'm pretty much at the end of the road. But that's where I wanted to go. How about that? But let me say this one last thing. So, the Great Commission is to go into all the world and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. When you're intimately connected to Him, this comes out of you naturally. There's an overflow of His glory and power because He is more than enough for us.
Yes.
Wells of living water come flowing out into our situations, into the lives of everyone around us.
Yes.
This is the on earth as it is in heaven that makes life an exciting adventure.
Amen.
This is you, a tree planted by living waters, whose leaves are for the healing of the nations.
Amen.
That we see from Ezekiel 47. So whether or not you're thinking, am I doing enough? Am I good enough? You're not. But God says, well, you know my son, and that makes you my child.
Yes.
So you have access to all all of that, you have access to the kingdom of heaven. And you have access to the throne room. You can just come in and ask and make your petition boldly before the throne because you belong there. So I just want to encourage you with that. You belong here. You belong to the kingdom of heaven. You're part of it, regardless of how you might feel in your body. This body's breaking down. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. But we're not here for this. We're here for bringing heaven to earth.
Yes.
That's
So
it.
good.
That's all I have for today.